Hello. In today's quick GROK video, we will look at working with modular taxonomies in TopBraid EDG. First, let's consider why we would want to have a modular taxonomy or modular taxonomies by looking at a few popular use cases. Let's say you want to have a shared upper taxonomy. For example, all departments in your organization may use the same region hierarchy at the upper levels, but then below the upper levels, they're different. For example, I have this shared regions where world is divided into Americas and EMEA, and under Americans we have North America, and then countries. And then perhaps Department 1 defines the regions within United States as Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and West, while Department 2 has US Central, US East, and US West. And then, of course, they divide different states into those regions in a different way. So in this kind of example, there would also be a fourth module, maybe not necessarily a taxonomy, maybe a reference data set that has all the states. So with this approach, the shared definitions are consistent in both departments, and then we accommodate their unique definitions of specific regions. Another example use case has to do with translations and national languages. For example, if you have multilingual taxonomies, you may want to have one standard taxonomy in some language of your choice, let's say English, for example, as a popular language, and you'll have all the information in terms of structure, values of all the relevant fields, but everything will be in English as far as your text. Then you could create another taxonomy in German, and then, for example, and then include in it the standard taxonomy, and the only thing you add are labels, descriptions, and other textual fields, translating it to German. Similarly, you do the same for French and any other languages you want. This way, your German taxonomy that geared to your German use applications, use cases, markets does not have French or Russian or Italian, which definition that it doesn't need. It only has what it needs. And you're probably going to have different people responsible for those different taxonomies and possibly different life cycles in terms of their readiness in the translation, etc. Another example use case may be where you have two taxonomies that could be used independently from each other, but they contain some related concepts, or you want to build relationships from concept in one taxonomy to another. We're going to show it as an example today. You may have some food groups, and then you may have a taxonomy of wines. And let's say for some use case, you want to indicate which foods pair well with which wines. And in this example, there's actually two variants, because you could have a situation where both of those taxonomies, as I mentioned, are used independently, as well as there is a reason to use them together. But there could also be a situation where one of them is used independently and another one always depends on the first one, but yet we want to evolve it separately, and we want to have an option where we could use taxonomy A independent from B. With this use cases explained, and you may have some other additional use cases in your environment that you could think about. Let's do a quick demo of how we would do that in TopBraid EDG. Right now on TopBraid EDG homepage, I see links to two taxonomies that I will show today that I already prepared, wines and foods. So let's click on wines. And you see here a taxonomy that divides wines into various categories. We have red and white wine and so on. And the foods taxonomy deals with the food groups. And you see they're broken down things like meats, dairy, etc. At this point, they're independent. I am going to combine them together, these two modular taxonomy, in order to connect foods with wines. So one option that I have, I will include the wines taxonomy directly in a foods taxonomy. I'll do that by going into settings and then going to includes. And then I could, for example, filter here for just taxonomy. So I could look for wines. So with this, when I go back to my foods taxonomy, I see wines included. You see the icons for the wine concepts are less bold than for the food concept. That means that they come from the place where they included. And when you click on any of those concepts, you have a link here that says defined in wines taxonomy. So let's take a look at, for example, Pinot Grigio or Pinot Blanc. You see that I have some data about these wines. And if I try to edit it, I can add another label, but I cannot change already existing label because this belongs to the included taxonomy. And this data can only be modified directly there in the home taxonomy. At the edge installation level, I could also configure whether any edits can be done on the forms for the included concepts or not. So what I can do now is start building my connections. So I want to look for chicken. And I want to say that it pairs well with, let's say, Chardonnay. So and I'm going to use for pairs well the property that comes built in with COS, and it's called related. It's a general relationship property. I could also create a custom property called paired with, connecting foods and wines. This would be accomplished through customizing my taxonomy structure and fields. We have a separate video about it, how to customize your taxonomies. Please take a look at it. But for now, I'm just going to use related concept property, and I'm going to select Chardonnay. I'll save changes. So this way, I've established a connection between chicken and Chardonnay. I can click through. If I click through, I see information and the fact that it's defined in the wine taxonomy. If there are any changes to the wine taxonomy, I'm going to see that immediately. For example, if I clicked here and decided to add a definition for Chardonnay, such as save changes, I'm gonna go here, and if I refresh, I see this definition. So it is included by reference. Any changes made at the source are immediately visible to me. So that's one approach that I could use. Let me show you another approach. I'll break this connection. So, and I'm going to remove the inclusion. So instead of including wines taxonomy in the foods taxonomy, I am going to create a third taxonomy. So I'm going to remove this inclusion. Now they're independent again. And I'm going to create a third taxonomy. Call it food and wine pairing. Create a taxonomy. I am going to include both foods and wines into it. Okay, so include wines. I'm going to include foods. And now the only thing that I will be doing here, I will be just building connections. Or maybe adding something unique to this new taxonomy that I've created. So I'm going to go to chicken. And I'm going to say that it's related to Chardonnay. So why would you go with this option, creating a third one, as opposed to including wines with foods? That depends really on your use cases, how you're planning to deploy and use those taxonomies. For example, if it's important for you to provide foods without wine, then you may take this approach. Also note that if you set your server edge default such that you cannot modify included concepts, then of course, establishing those relationships will not work, because effectively we are making modifications to this included concept of chicken. Yet another approach in this case is building crosswalks. And we have a separate video for using crosswalks. They are dedicated particularly to creating a single type of connection between two different asset collections. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this information will be useful for you in managing your modular taxonomies.